Welcome to The Wealth Approach, where money talk is anything but boring. Here, budgeting doesn't mean giving up your latte, and building wealth is something we do with heart, humor, and a whole lot of real life stories. Join hosts Megan Kowalski and Kristin Donnelley, wealth advisors, moms, and your monthly guides to smarter finances, as they share honest conversations, practical tips, and strategies that make sense for real life. So grab your coffee, your car keys, or your favorite cozy spot, and let's talk money.
Hello, and welcome to the Wealth Approach. Today's episode is the heart of legacy and building bonds that last. So, we're going to share where this episode kind of originated. I stumbled across a poem recently, and we've had just different experiences recently that kind of drew us to this, but it's called The Dash Between. And it's mostly about just kind of like the life that you live between when you start out life and you end life, and what everything in between means, and what you leave. So, with the holidays coming up, we thought it would be a great time to talk about just family legacy and what is family legacy, and how can we really build a strong, cohesive family legacy. And we'll talk about kind of why that matters with respect to wealth in general. So, Kristin, can you talk a little bit about what is family legacy?
Well, I think family legacy is a combination of a few things. It's experiences and it is communication. And really it is the thing that makes up your life. I mean, we often don't think about, our experiences as a family as being really the core of who we are. We think of we are the core of who we are.
Hmm.
But but the truth is that your life will shape you and your family will shape you in ways that you can't even imagine, that you will carry with you your whole life,
Right.
actually. And my father once said that when he was in his 80s, he said, I feel exactly like I did when I was a kid. I mean, even though your body gets older, you don't get older.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so you still remember, if you can remember, you still remember the feelings that you had and the lessons that you learned. And so family legacy is this, I don't know, it's kind of a workshop of how you build the skills to navigate a happy and cohesive life, whether you know, love the color of your child's hair, that's now pink or not. It doesn't matter. The person is the person, and the family legacy is the respect that you give one another, the cohesiveness that with which you can communicate, and the shared experiences that you're going to carry with you your whole life.
Hmm. No, completely. It's really like the shared values and traditions of a family unit. That's what we think of when we think of family legacy. And the reason why it even correlates to wealth in the first place is, we've talked in the past about how 70% of wealth is lost from generation one to two, and then from generation two to three, another 90%. But what are those factors that are really eroding the wealth? And 60% of the biggest issue is communication. So building a cohesive, strong family core can help strengthen against that communication breakdowns along the way. To just really combat that 60% of erosion. So that's why it's so important. And when we think about the holidays, you can look at those as almost superchargers throughout the year to really stimulate that family cohesive unity. And then you still have to do work along the way, but those can act as superchargers to help keep the family unit together. So we thought it'd be fun to talk about just our own, like, what are some big family traditions that we either have had in the past or we anticipate moving forward that stand out in each of our families. So if you want to start with yours.
Yeah, but first I would like to say that the communication that you talk about, the 60% of communication, really what is that? It's about, sharing information,
Hmm.
and it's about sharing practices, and so holidays are a great time to learn how to communicate well together and to realize that we have some synergies here. We have some shared experiences in many different ways. So I think what I would like to say is for my own family's tradition is that my family was from a rural area in northern Michigan. So I still remember when my dad and all the men would go out and go hunting, and all of the women, kids included, were put in charge of, or not put in charge, but they were the ones who created the meal, put the decorations out, did the whole thing. And
Hmm.
I remember even the smell, and this has been decades. I
Hmm.
remember the smell of when these guys would come back to the house in their woolen outerwear, the
Yeah.
old stuff,
Yep.
and then, take off their coats and sit down I mean, I can even remember the smell of it. So there are so many things that really make up this, people. I mean, people are really incredible things that can put together all sorts of memories and ideas and their own way of looking at it. And so it's just amazing, actually, your shared experiences. What about you?
So, growing up, my family, we have a lot of extended family up in northern Minnesota, and we were always in the Chicagoland area. So, we would meet in between in the Wisconsin Dells, and we would get together with all of our extended families, great aunts and uncles, second, third cousins, probably every year around December just to connect with them. And it was so fun growing up as a kid because we had the water parks. So what is there not to love about that? And I think again, where you could say almost kind of like the smell, it's such a core memory that like so much of it you can remember every aspect, and I'll take that with me forever. And it's one thing us as a family, we try to either continue that. Now being in South Florida, it's a little bit harder for my family, but how can we create new traditions that somewhat honor that family legacy of togetherness throughout time for like my kids per se?
Mhm.
So I think if we look at both of our biggest core traditions or memories that we take is that all generations were included, and it was very like everyone participated. It was very active. So there was kind of a place for everyone, let's say at the table, not
Mhm.
literally the table, but in that tradition or in that memory, everyone participated. And when we think about like the holidays coming up, that's something that really can help stimulate the family togetherness. Like not just cooking the meal, if there's going to be, we can't have too many cooks in the kitchen, but let's say there's a family talent show for the preteens or a coloring station for the younger kids. How can you include all generations and even have them in charge of what those different things look like so that everyone's participating and there's active conversations without it feeling forced?
Right. Well, they say, we have a statistic that 73% of Americans bond more during the holidays than any other time of year. And you can see why. I mean, they're set up for enjoyment,
Mhm.
but you still have to be purposeful about it because what you're trying to do is create acceptance and communication between people that, let's, be honest. People, you may like different family members, you may not, you may see some more than others or whatever, but you still are a team. And
Mhm.
each team member deserves to be respected and heard. And part of it, um, like every other team member. And so, when you think about, setting the table, I mean, so to speak, for a great holiday, you need to think about what are the goals that you are trying to set up. And that is um, inclusivity and enjoyment, and forget about the perfection, forget about, the things that we all worry about, whether the gravy has lumps or the house is
The turkey
clean. I mean,
burn.
make it so that it can be enjoyable for you as well. But, forget about those things that really don't end up mattering. What really matters are the people that are there. And again, these are bonds that happen over the holidays, that can happen over the holidays, that can take them through years and generations of working together as a team, especially, in families where there is money to be managed jointly.
100%. And that's where the family communication also fosters emotional safety and security over time. So making sure that you have those kind of supercharger family events that that bond and cohesiveness can happen over time so that that open communication within the family network can stay strong and healthy long term. And that's where the holidays can really be a very, healthy tool to use to keep your family in the right, the right space.
Yeah, together,
Mhm.
together.
Yeah.
So, one of the ways we can do this is honoring old traditions and creating new ones. And so, honoring old traditions isn't just about, well, I mean, we talked, Megan, about one tradition that might seem like a duh, but how you treat the elder people in your family. I mean, are they just kind of pushed off to the side because they're not doing that much, or are they, in the center of everything? And I think that there's so much in life to learn about how to navigate life because everybody is going to have wonderful things and challenging things.
Mhm.
And so when you have, people there that have seen a lot over the years and can offer a wisdom, while they're there, because, someday we'll all not have our parents.
Mhm.
Like I don't have my parents. And so, there are lots of times that I think, oh, well, I wonder I wish I could ask them what they would think about this.
Right.
But, they're not around. And so, you just have to realize that life is fleeting and so you want to make the most of this. So old traditions can be things like whether you cook, recipes, different ways of, organizing the house or setting up the house or decorating the house or, games or whatever it was that, you can the great things that you can carry forward from the past.
Mhm.
How you treat, elders or how you treat the kids. If you treat the kids like, okay, they're over there and they're doing their own thing, well, then they're going to feel like that. They bring them in, have them part of the volleyball game you know, or whatever it is that you do, the card game, teach them the card game, I mean, or, just find ways to bring them into the things that you love because then they'll love it as well. And then creating new ones. Like what would you suggest is how are you creating new ones in your family?
So I think that's where we're trying, obviously with young kids, we're trying to connect with them early at their levels. You pulled some interesting data about childhood, like different stages of what they're absorbing. And one of the items you pulled was early childhood, ages 3 to 7. They are really absorbing family values. They're recognizing how, elders are treated, the emotional tone, different things like that. And they're already, even at that age, building so much of those core memories. So one thing we're doing is we love to fish, we love the lake. So just making sure we take an annual trip to a lake and building those memories together. One thing actually my husband and I just talked about was like a family fishing tournament and like who caught
Oh,
the smallest fish, which will definitely be him, who caught the biggest fish, who caught like the most unique fish, just little things to help incorporate and then having something interesting for the family to look forward to in addition to just going to the lake, like building activities as a whole that can connect all generations regardless of everyone's skill set, and make it fun. I know one thing my husband did growing up is they always had a turkey bowl with, everyone in the family, whoever wanted to participate. A lot of people for Thanksgiving, they do like I don't know what those called, turkey trots, where it's like the 5K the morning of,
mm,
which would be great going into that big meal. Probably a good get a little some steps in, but just having something that your family does. And I think it's okay to change that over time. That's something that, honoring old legacies doesn't mean they have to be permanent. Your family can evolve over time. Um, so the traditions can evolve and you can adjust them for different generations too, but just making sure that cohesive of family valued and shared experiences, that's really what you want to take throughout. And try to incorporate everyone, like you kind of said. I think a great way of doing that is having, like, you guys were in charge of putting the meals together or the decorations, putting them in charge of it. I mean, people are capable. It doesn't have to always be run by, certain family
Adults.
members. Yeah, the
Right.
adult or maybe like the moms or something. They want that incentive and to be empowered. So
Mhm.
I think doing that across generations really helps foster a lot of um, activity as well.
Yeah. So, all right. So setting legacy goals. So we came up with some ideas of the way you kind of think about it as you're going into this. So, how to determine your family legacy goals. And remember, like you and your husband, Megan, you've come together, you both have your own tradition. So you are going to bring in shades of both of yours and you're going to create your own new ones. But
Hmm.
as you said, the ultimate goal is, communication and just family unity. So, what do you want? Ask yourself, what do you want your children to remember? I mean, what do you want all of you to remember? And so think about your event or your holiday from that focus, from that lens. What is it that you really want? And then have that as part of, if you have that goal, then build things to support that goal.
Hmm.
So games and food or whatever it is, what values do we want to pass on and who do we want to include? And that right there is one of the a family legacy is who do you include? Are you somebody that you just want your family, this is such an important time to really, connect with one another, or do you want to, bring in other people? And that's part of your family legacy is sharing your tradition with other people.
Hmm.
So, who is it that you want to be part of it and then setting it up that way? And so we have some tips for a meaningful holiday. So,
Yeah, and one of the items you said in the beginning, which is just really important because we pour so much time into like planning the meals. I mean, there's so much ingredients that go into some of these items, so we get it. But just not worrying too much about perfection. Just as long as you're all getting together on a regular basis and trying to incorporate everyone to participate when and where they can, that's enough. Like that's perfect, and you're still going to be able to look back at that and look fondly on it. So not getting too stressed about your plans going perfectly. Just try and continue to work on that. Um,
mhm.
Another one was just planning ahead. So a lot of this, it doesn't take a lot of input, but just planning ahead and like incorporating everyone early, saying, hey, we are going to have a turkey trot this year. So make sure to bring your tennis shoes or what. You have to think ahead for something like that and get their buy-in before the day of, and just to build some momentum behind the idea. So planning ahead will really help participation there. What other ones do you have as well?
Okay, so I mean, just to that point, Megan, I mean, helping if you are the planner of this and you are, setting legacy goals, then also do a couple of things as well. And that is, for example, I mean, if alcohol conversations don't end up being the best in your family, alcohol fueled conversations,
Yep.
then, limit it. I mean,
Mhm.
you're in control. And so, try to set it up so it's going to be successful. That's one point. Okay, so As you said, prioritize quality over perfection. I would also say be present and try to help people realize the fleeting nature and the extraordinary nature of you, whoever it is that you have being together. So, try to drop the technology, put the phones down if you can. Try to have the kids. They're the great beneficiaries of this.
Mhm.
And understand that this is, a moment. You might see your cousins a lot, but do you see them under these circumstances that, everybody is trying to share something very special and honor each person's journey? I mean, listen, we're all different, and I mean, even siblings can be very, very different. And, but this is a moment to not make people feel uncomfortable about who they are or defend who they are or what they do, where they look, what they look, whatever.
Mhm.
It's a time to, see the beauty of that person, be, you know, away from the labels that we put on people
For sure.
and communicate. And so, um, and then the last thing that I have is to, encourage participation because, you don't get it if you don't show up. And showing up is up here. It's not
Mhm.
just getting your body into that house. So, encourage participation and inclusion and, let people show who they really are, not their label.
Yes. No, and back to kind of the in the beginning with the poem that kind of started the concept for this episode with the dash between. Legacy is really not necessarily the things that you leave, but it's really the impressions that you leave on people and that family traditions and everything in between. And if you're successful at that, generational wealth will come with it because so much of the strong family bonds and legacy and continuing to build wealth is communication and healthy emotional safety, fostering togetherness. So use these holidays as your supercharger and just make sure to be intentional when you can and build some memories that last. Thanks for joining.
Happy holidays.